Republicans aren't the only ones that are trying to replace the president in 2 years' time. Tuesday night, Hillary Clinton tweeted out that the president pointed way to an economy that works for all. She says, now we need to step up and deliver for the middle class. That theme is always popular in election campaigns, but Hillary is not alone. It looks like that she might have some high-profile competition coming right from the White House. On two separate occasions, Vice President Joe Biden indicated that he might just run against Clinton.
Yes, there's a chance. But I haven't made my mind up about that. We got a lot of work to do between now and then. There's plenty of time.
A long list of candidates for the future and political battles for the present, all coming into focus as the year 2015 just gets a little bit older. Speaking of political challenges, a new controversy explodes in Washington just one day after the State of the Union. House Speaker John Boehner invited Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the nation's capital. Boehner offered him an audience to address Congress, and he didn't even notify the White House. A complete end around. And this is the first time that we've ever seen anything like this.
I did not consult with the White House. The Congress can make this decision on its own. I don't believe I'm poking anyone in the eye. There is a serious threat that exists in the world. And the president last night kind of papered over it. And the fact is that there needs to be a more serious conversation in America about how serious the threat is from radical Islamic jihadists and the threat posed by Iran.
Speaker Boehner defying the protocols and going around the president's back to mend the fence and try to repair relationships with perhaps America's strongest ally. When Netanyahu arrives in D.C., he will take a strong stance against President Obama's position regarding new sanctions for Iran's nuclear weapons program. It's been a busy week for American officials visiting Cuba. The delegation visiting this week is the highest level group of American officials to do so in more than 3 decades. They're working with Cuban officials to try and find some common ground.
Despite the clear differences that remain between our countries, the United States and Cuba can find opportunities to advance our mutually shared interests.
So far, some U.S. objectives include lifting restrictions on U.S. diplomats in Cuba and assuring Cubans will have full access to a future U.S. embassy in Havana. Cuba says that it wants their names taken off of that terrorism sponsor list. Thousands of people cannot drink the water in the town of Glendive, Montana. Officials say there is a dangerous chemical in the water supply. Officials there say there is too much benzene, and that chemical, among other things, is known to cause cancer. The amounts of the toxic chemical in the water are at 3 times the safe consumption level. What caused the water emergency? An oil spill of epic proportions, the second largest in state history. 50,000 gallons of oil spilled into the Yellowstone River over the weekend, and emergency responders trucked in several thousand gallons of bottled water for the people there. But when environmental specialists tried to clean up the mess, thick ice got in the way. Politicians on both sides of the Keystone XL pipeline proposal are using this story to their advantage. Some say that this oil spill is due to old, outdated pipelines. Critics of the plan say this is just one picture of what could happen to other parts of the country if this bill goes through. Before the Senate votes on the pipeline, they first voted on another issue. Is climate change real? We've heard dozens of politicians say that they're not scientists, but on Wednesday they voted in a landslide. 96-1, almost unprecedented numbers. All but 2 U.S. senators voted that climate change is real and it is not a hoax. The Senate can agree on that, but can they agree on building the Keystone Pipeline? We will find that out in the days ahead. Republicans say a lot of jobs could be on the line. As abortion opponents gather in Washington for the annual March for Life, House Republicans dropped their plans to debate a bill that would outlaw nearly all late-term abortions. GOP women are concerned that victims of rape and incest would be forced to speak out about the assaults if they didn't have the option of a late-term abortion. Opponents of the restrictions point to recent estimates from the Justice Department that claim almost two-thirds of rapes and sexual assaults are never reported. Other objections for an exemption for incest, which only covered minors who have already reported the incident. Thursday is the 42nd anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision legalizing most abortions in America. In financial news, a new report that impacts millions of Americans, the Mortgage Bankers Association reports applications for new mortgages are on the rise, up 63% from a year ago. That's a big increase, and it just started in recent days. Housing markets experts say this new rise is due almost entirely to people taking advantage of low interest rates. Those same experts say that there may not be a better time to refinance your home than right now. For many Americans, it's suddenly getting cheaper to make the payments on their most important, most expensive investment. A year ago, a 30-year mortgage loan averaged 4.5%. Today, it's down to 3.81%, even lower for 15-year loans. In the last 60 days, rates have dropped another 0.5%, which is also a big drop-off. The lower rates mean that many people plan to save up enough money to make those long-awaited housing repairs or renovations. Industry experts say that anytime you see interest rates drop at least 0.5 percentage point lower than the rate that you're currently paying, then it's definitely worth the trouble to refinance. With all of that money on the line, it's not a bad idea to do a little homework. A family with a 30-year mortgage worth $300,000 at 4.5% pays just over $1,300 a month. But when you plug in those new lower interest rates, the price of your monthly mortgage payment drops by $150. When you look at that entire loan, that equals a total savings worth upwards of $22,000. Market analysts believe that interest rates could stay low or go even lower over the coming months. And believe it or not, nearly half of American homeowners don't even compare their current interest rates to the ones that are on the market today. In the president's recent State of the Union address, he focused a lot on cybersecurity, internet hackers breaking into your computer and making off with important information or private data. And as we all know, the first line of defense against a hacker is a good password. And from what we're seeing, it sounds like some of you may be in line to make a few changes to your computer password. Security analyst group Splash Data just released a list of the worst internet passwords of 2014. And they reminded us that the best defense against hackers is not just picking strong passwords, but changing them often. But these studies also show that most Americans use the same easy password for almost everything, and they almost never change them. This year's winner for worst password, 123456. 9 of the top 25 worst passwords were just numbers, no letters at all, making it much easier for hackers to guess different variations of a birthday, anniversary, or your home address. Others got just a little more creative. Their password, ABC123. And no, I'm not Michael Jackson. I'm not going to sing it for you. Some other interesting common passwords on the list: dragon, monkey, shadow, Batman, and let me in. The runner-up for the worst password of last year, password.